Hey gang, welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about the fact that Amazon might be increasing their fees yet again as a result of a new tax that's being imposed on them and other online retailers who have apparently benefited the most from the pandemic. But before we get into that story, I just want to reveal last week's competition winner, which was Ernie Santiago. So Ernie, well done. Drop me a message and I'll send you your Helium 10 Platinum Plan details. Okay, so let's now talk about this story that's broken over the last few days. Essentially, the government, namely Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, are considering imposing a new 1% tax levy on online retailers such as Amazon, ASOS, Boohoo, etc. Basically, any name that may have benefited during the last year throughout the pandemic versus other brick and mortar retailers. So this is an article that appeared on the BBC, and one of the retailers leading the charge against Amazon, etc. is Tesco, which is saying that it's called for a 1% sales tax to be levied on online competitors. And amongst those other names were Morrisons, Asda, Waterstones, etc., who were all saying to Rishi Sunak, you need to impose a new tax rate on these online guys in order to level the playing field. One of the key points that they're making as to why Amazon, etc. should pay more tax is because they're saying that retailers are at a disadvantage as a result of the fact that they've got large real estate properties throughout the country and they have to pay rates, whereas Amazon, ASOS, etc., they don't have stores throughout the country, so they don't have to pay those rate charges. So this is what is being considered at the moment, and the article then goes on to basically, I guess, back up some of these claims that Amazon, etc. have benefited by saying that Amazon sales in the UK increased by 51% to nearly 20 billion in 2020, which is absolutely insane and again highlights just how quickly Amazon is growing, particularly in the UK. Now, as I just mentioned, some of the people that are campaigning for this tax include the CEO of Tesco, Morrisons, Asda, Waterstones. In total, there are 18 chief executives that are saying to the government, you need to start taxing Amazon, etc. more, and you need to do it now. And this has really irritated me because the people that are leading the charge, Tesco, Morrisons, Asda, etc., those guys have benefited as a result of the impact of the pandemic way more than other smaller retailers. So, for example, just to back that statement up, I went to Morrisons yesterday and those guys have expanded their range enormously. They don't just do food, they do cards, they do videos, DVDs, computer games, clothes, everything, and they are allowed to remain open. Whereas the smaller retailers that do just focus on selling cards, games, clothes, etc., those guys have to close, right, because of the lockdown. So how is it fair that these guys, Morrisons, etc., are saying, do you know what, to the government, we are disadvantaged and we think that Amazon, etc., should pay more tax than we do? I don't really think that's fair, and I know that these supermarkets, particularly last year during the first lockdown, benefited massively because so many people were panic buying and rushing to the shops and buying far more like food items than was necessary. So it's irritated me that these guys are campaigning for this now. Tesco, you guys will remember, if you are based in the UK, Tesco's a big supermarket. About 10-15 years ago, those guys were destroying the high street. They were coming in with their Tesco Express stores, their smaller supermarket formats, and they were pushing out independent small supermarkets way out of business. Then after they'd done that, after they started to decimate the high street, they then started to move out of town and basically taking over big industrial parks with massive superstores. Now, they didn't really care about destroying smaller businesses then or other businesses. So it really irritates me that now that they're getting a taste of their own medicine from the likes of Amazon and other online retailers, that they don't like it and they're throwing their toys out the pram. Now, Tesco, Asda, Morrisons, etc. all have their own online offering, and there was actually another article in the news this morning that said online food shopping had grown massively, yet these guys are still unhappy and they're saying, do you know what? to the government, you need to tax Amazon, etc. more. Now, the real reason that this has really frustrated me is because you guys know full well that if Amazon gets any more taxes, any more fees, it's not them that has to pay it, it's us. It happened last year or the year before. There was a new tax that came in called the Digital Services Tax. It was imposed on Amazon, and who had to pay it? We did. The referral fee went up by the equivalent of 3%, I believe, or so. It wasn't a huge amount, but it's like an additional 20p or so per transaction. So I know for a fact that if Amazon gets this new tax imposed upon them, they're not going to be bothered because they're just going to pass it straight on to us. So I would be really interested to hear what you guys think in the comment section below, whether you agree with me or whether you think it's a good thing. But I just kind of wanted to delve into one of these articles in a bit more detail before doing that, where it kind of explains, or some of the comments explain, that even though Amazon isn't paying the same amount of tax directly in the form of rates, etc., they are paying a lot of tax indirectly because they employ so many people, right? They're employing so many more people than they were last year. So we can see here it says, this is a quote directly from Amazon. So Amazon insists that they pay its tax and they pay the right tax, and they've created thousands of jobs in the UK, which they have. If online shopping on Amazon has increased 50% in the last year, then you can imagine just how many new jobs have been created, right? So they're saying last year we created 10,000 new jobs, and last week we announced 1,000 new apprenticeships. This continued investment helped contribute total tax of 1.1 billion, which was in the form of 290 million in direct tax, i.e. that's what Amazon's paying, and 850 million in indirect tax. So they're paying their staff, and then their staff have to pay their own tax, right? And I think that is exactly right. If we stifle Amazon's growth, or if the government stifles Amazon's growth and discourages online innovation, etc., then it just means that they're going to pass on any additional charges to us, the seller. We're then going to have to increase our prices to compensate for higher fees on us. And who is it that ultimately pays? It's the customer. So the customer's going to get higher fees or have higher prices versus the high street, which means that they're going to shop less on Amazon if they don't think they're going to get a good deal anymore, which means less jobs are going to be created at Amazon, and so on and so on. So you can see I'm really frustrated over this whole thing because it doesn't seem like these big retailers are really thinking this through. They're just saying, yeah, it's not fair. We want more profits. How about you start taxing Amazon more? Now, before I end this rant, instead, what I wanted to do was open the floor up to you guys as well and hear what you think should be done instead. Me personally, I think rather than taxing Amazon on its top line, so the revenues that it generates, that will just pass through straight to us. I think that if you were going to tax Amazon anything else, then you should either tighten up your tax law so that it can't circumvent paying taxes in the UK, or apply a certain surcharge or tax or whatever, an additional tax on their profits. That way it's going to be a lot harder for them to pass any increasing charges through to us, which means that we're not going to be increasing our prices down to the customer. Now, you guys have seen from the previous video that I did where I spoke about VAT at the beginning of the year. Amazon basically said, all international sellers, we're going to deduct VAT from your sales proceeds. You saw what happened there. It resulted in prices increasing by 20% because international sellers couldn't avoid paying VAT anymore. So it was the customer that got punished from that. So it's the exact same is going to happen with this, I can assure you. So if anyone from the government is watching this, I highly doubt it, but if anybody's watching this that has an opinion, that can, post about it, whatever, then please do, because I do think that if this new tax levy gets imposed, this 1% tax levy gets brought in, it's not Amazon that's going to pay, it's going to be us, and it's going to be the customer. So a bit of a rant this week, but I just thought this was very topical. I thought you guys would be interested in it, especially if you are Amazon FBA sellers, which hopefully you are, or hopefully you're thinking about doing. But yeah, guys, as always, if you've got any comments, thoughts, queries, opinions, whatever, post them down in the comment section below. I'll see you next time for hopefully a bit more of an uplifting video to do with Amazon FBA.